Hey everyone, SnicketySlice here. And I'm gonna be showing you my good friend George. Alright. Hey Tom, it's great to be my good friend George. Yes, quite. He's a good buddy of mine. Hey everyone, SnicketySlice here. Talking about my good friend George.
Oh, hey Tom, it's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to be here, everyone. I'm gonna be talking about Amnesia, which is a game that I missed out on, but apparently it has a large influence and quite the reputation. In Amnesia, you play as this guy named Daniel, and after drinking some kind of a potion, you no longer remember any of the events that happened beforehand. But lucky for you, yourself a few moments ago decided to write a helpful letter informing you of the current situation. And the letter reads, Dear Daniel, my name is Daniel, and I'm you from the past, and you're me from the future, and I need you to go into the darkest, most deep, evil-looking room in this castle, and I need you to kill a guy named Alexander. And it's not going to be hard. He's a bitch, and we hate him. And I need you to do it. Alright? I'm not exactly sure if I should tell you why I gave us Amnesia, but it will all become super clear because I've dispersed small notes across this entire castle somehow. And yeah, off you go. So after waking up on this dirty castle floor, we're off on our way to in our Dark Descent. And in this game, you get to actually discover the story as opposed to having it thrust upon you. There are a couple of sequences, one towards the end in particular, that kind of spoon feed you the story, and a couple of moments where the game will come to a halt, the screen will become distorted, and you'll hear some kind of a flashback. But other than those moments, most of the story is gathered through these little notes and diary entries that are strung about the castle walls and drawers and anywhere else you might find one. A lot like Metroid Prime, you can choose to go and find out the story if you'd like. I mean, in a horror game, maybe exploring every nook and cranny isn't exactly the first thing that you're inclined to do instinctively, but the option is there, so you don't have a protagonist talking to himself at all times about what's going on. It's kind of neat. And fun fact, the voice actor for Alexander and Daniel are both teachers from my school, or from my high school that I went to. And I think that's really neat. I really wanted them to come on the show, and I'd really like to get them someday. But for now, I'll just leave you with that fun fact. They have very nice British voices. The story is pretty good. We are now entering a spoilerish kind of area, so for those of you who missed out like me on this super old game, I suggest you either skip further in the video or stop watching now so you can go play it yourself. It's free on PSN, like for today only, and like no other days, because it's the last day of the month. As the story goes on, it's discovered that you worked closely with Alexander after some mission to another country. You guys brought back an orb that brought this darkness with it, and it's been killing everyone who's been involved with the damn artifact. So, you being Daniel, you are not a good guy. You, in fact, were very close with Alexander. Not only that, but you were an instrumental part in all of the bullshit that's happening in this castle. When you two went on an expedition with a small party, you came back with this orb, and this orb granted magical powers to Alexander. Not only that, it brought forth horrible consequences, known as the shadow, at least that's how they refer to it. And it's been slowly killing off everyone who's been involved with your expedition, and it's after you and Alexander next. So Alexander devises this plan to somehow become powerful enough to travel to another dimension. And you're like, oh sweet, this is awesome, we're gonna be buddies, we're gonna go to another dimension, me and you, Daniel and Alexander. adventures, 100 years. But it turns out Alexander had no intentions of taking you with him. And you're like, oh man, that Alexander! He really grinds my gears. I gotta do something. But I'm a huge wimpy man, and I'm too scared to do anything. Because I've accidentally created all these monsters, and I've accidentally pissed myself about 20 times while I've been in this castle. I can't do this. But you know who can? Myself, if I had amnesia. So you do. Daniel devises this plan to give himself amnesia as to expel all of the fear and doubt in his heart so that he can stop Alexander without the burden of all of the guilt and horrible angst and pain that comes with it. When I discovered that, I thought, that's really clever, and I liked it a lot. I really liked it because that's cool. You're so scared and you're just so dumb and you can't do it, and you think, you know what, I can do it, but I need to start. I gotta be a blank slate. Then when I remember all this, I'm gonna feel so relieved. And after about 10 hours of wandering the castle, you eventually do meet up with Alexander. And he says, hey buddy, great to see ya. You're not gonna knock over those poles, are you? And you say, no, I'm not gonna knock them over. Well, that's a relief because, no, what are you doing? No, stop, don't push them over. You said you wouldn't. I'm pushing them over. Look at this, you can't stop me. Thus, putting an end to all of Alexander's evil schemes. But here's the kicker. This is one of 3 possible endings. Or possibly 4. The 4th being the ending where you put down the game after not being able to solve the stupid fucking pipe puzzle. But other than that, there are 3 endings. 1, you confront Alexander and you say, fuck it, I'm gonna knock all these things over, and you destroy his crazy ritual. He disappears or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened. And then you leave the castle with this awesome, triumphant, actual gameplay by the way. Walk back through a lot of the areas you've explored. I really like that ending, and it was my favorite one. But I did go back and get the other 2. Luckily for me, I had backup saves. Ending number 2. In the game, you come across this scary zombie man, and he says, dude, Alexander put me here so long ago. My soul's inside of this dead body. I hate this. And then you say, hey man, I can cure you. And then you go to cure him, but instead of curing him, you chop off his head. And then you bring the head with you to go meet Alexander, and the same scenario plays out where Alexander says, ha ha ha, Daniel, I am going to go to another dimension and there's nothing you can do to stop me unless you push over the fucking rods, which you won't do. And instead of pushing over the rods, as soon as the portal opens, you just chuck Mr. Zombie Man's head right through the portal. Alexander says, what the fuck are you doing? And then he disappears, and then you die. And then Mr. Zombie Man says,
don't worry, Daniel. It will be all right.
That ending is extremely ominous. I'm not exactly sure what it means. I like to think that Mr. Zombie Man actually helped us and brought us back to life, or possibly brought us to the other dimension. But I can't be too sure of that. What I can be sure of is how sad it would be if someone got the bad ending by accident, because I can see it happening because it almost happened to me. So the third ending of this game is where Alexander gets his way. You have the option to just stand there and watch him do what he wants to do. And if for some reason you don't figure out to push over the poles in time, the portal will open up and Alexander will fly through, and then the castle will start to dilapidate into this weird jello ooze and you'll die. And Alexander will say, oh great, this is amazing. You know what, Daniel? I will never forget how awesome it was that you couldn't stop me. And that's the ending. Pretty great. There's also technically another ending, although it's exactly the same as the one I just described, except the qualifications for getting this ending is not figuring out how to get out of this stupid prison cell in time. I did not get that ending, by the way. I did get out in time. I'm just saying, if you don't figure it out, you're getting the bad ending a little bit early. So as far as the story goes, I enjoyed it. It's not amazing. I don't hate it, but I liked it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. This game shines more in its gameplay. The story's fine, but it did keep me interested all the way up until the end. So I will admit, it was a lot of fun. I really like how it was slowly uncovered that you were behind a lot of the more gruesome happenings in the castle, and it's just neat because when suddenly you are playing as this weirdo when you thought you were a cool guy, it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. You're just thinking to yourself, oh man, was I like that? Oh, I don't like thinking back to myself. I cringe a lot. You know, kinda when you're an old man like I am in your 20s and you think back to when you were in 7th grade and how your hair looked and how you dressed and you just that's probably how Daniel was feeling throughout this game. He was thinking, man, why did I straighten my hair? I fucking fried it. It'll never look the same. But you know what? That's really awesome because I loved it. I loved that feeling of just slowly thinking Daniel was more and more weird as it goes on, which is a lot less subtle in the sequel, but we'll be talking about that a little later on. For now, let's jump into the next category. Amnesia is a first-person game where stealth is key and combat is non-existent. You will find lots of chairs and boxes and you can pick them up. And that is the best part about this game, hands down, and already makes it better than A Machine for Fucking Pigs. Not that I hate that game, we'll get into that later. I just can't help but feel it would have been better if there were more physics things like in this game. Irrational Games, I love the first Amnesia because of physics, because you guys knew and should know that physics are fun. You can pick up pretty much anything. Books, chairs, boxes, slightly bigger boxes, barrels. It's amazing. You walk into a room, you're like a tornado. You just walk in, you're like, fuck this, and you just throw everything all over. You find a tinderbox and you leave. You're like, great, I found what I was looking for. See you later, room. Kiss my ass. And on top of that, there is no better way to bring yourself solace than to just walk around carrying an object. It really does make you feel better. This game is scary, and in some of its scarier parts, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just gonna take this rabbit with me, and I'm gonna I'll have him look in the room. You see anything in there? No, George, there's nothing in there. You fucking lied to me. You fucking lied to me. I also like that some of these puzzles can be solved by just throwing shit. There's this ladder a little more than halfway through the game, and you know, it says it's stuck. I'm racking my brain. I'm wandering around this room. I'm thinking, hey, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna have to find some boxes, climb up to it? No. Am I gonna possibly find a lever? Maybe I can go down this stairway. No, I can't go down here. It's poison. What do I do? And you know what? The answer is just to pick up a rock and just throw it at the ladder, and it breaks and it goes down. And I love that. Physics-based puzzles in a horror game? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love some good old-fashioned combining items, which is present in this game. But when the solution to a puzzle is to grab a giant piece of concrete and huck it on top of a bridge to lower it, that makes a great game. And not to mention that, it also comes into play with the enemies. You can't fight in this game, but you can block the doors with chairs and stuff, just make it harder for them to get past. This weird water creature, you can throw body parts across the room and have it go chase after and eat it, buying you valuable time to get to the next easy platform as to not be devoured by it. It's really clever. I love it. Man, Amnesia is good. We haven't even begun to talk about the sanity system. In this game, you have health and sanity. Your health, as the name might imply, is directly related to how many hits you take from monsters or from falls or whatever else might ail you. Your sanity, however, is this super neat mechanic where the longer you spend in the dark or looking at evil monsters of the night, you start freaking out and you can't see. So it kind of puts the player in this position of a trade-off. Do I leave my lantern on, wasting oil and making me more visible to the enemy, but saving my sanity? Or do I scrounge around in pretty much pitch darkness, stealthing my way around these enemies and, you know, risk more of my sanity and make it harder to move and see. It's cool because it puts this added stress on you. A little bit like the Moon and Majora's Mask. You know how there's that timer and you have some choices to make about how you're going to spend your time? In Amnesia, there's something similar. There's a stressful mechanic being the sanity meter, because when your sanity is super, super low, your guy starts seeing things. Seeing things that weren't there before. I caught this clip where my sanity was pretty low after this horrible encounter, and I finally made it back to the safe room, and I was thinking to myself, thank you so much, me, for surviving through this. Thank God I'm back in the safe room. This is great. Nothing could be better. And then I get to the fountain and I'm like, I'm splashing myself with water. I'm just so happy. And I turn around and there's a body just sitting there. And I'm puzzled because I don't remember that body when I walked in, and I don't think it was there originally. And now I'm thinking to myself, am I going crazy? Was there always a body there? And I'm like, no, there wasn't. I have video clips to prove it. I'll go back, I'll look, and I'm just confused and think, alright, I guess I'll go about my business and splash in this water some more. And then I turn around and the body's gone. And I say, oh, that was awesome. Because it had me questioning my sanity. And I love that. There's so many instances of that in this game. Whether it's entering a room, looking at a scary thing, then leaving the room and you see that scary thing drawn up upside down by strings on the wall, or going down this staircase one time and then the next time you're going up the staircase it's covered in giant spiders, and you're thinking, there's no way I didn't notice that. This has to be fake. This can't be real. Or this one section where I was so scared, or my sanity rather was so low that these cockroaches started crawling across my TV screen, and I'm like, what is going on? And it's so neat. The sanity, that is amazing. I mean, it's a little weird to have the game tell you you're scared when perhaps maybe you're not actually even that scared. But as a game mechanic, I give it an A for effort. It was very cool. Having low sanity is even dangerous if you're not careful, because if your sanity is at its lowest state, sometimes Daniel will just collapse and not be able to walk. And in the instance where you're being chased by a creature, that would be the worst time for this to be happening. And the thing about it is, if you're at the point where a creature is chasing you, your sanity is probably already low. It's so great. It's a great fear mechanic. Unlike the camera in Outlast, which I hate, the sanity mechanic in Amnesia is smart and well implemented. I love that feeling when you're making progress and solving a puzzle, and then you go to check your sanity and it says crystal clear. It's just bliss. Nothing's wrong in the world. I've been through some shit, but you know what? Right now, everything's okay. This is amazing. In this game, you have lantern and tinderboxes. You need to keep the rooms lit or keep your lantern on to save sanity, and in order to do so, you need to really make sure to make that choice to light some candles along your way with tinderboxes as opposed to using your limited amount of oil. Because your lantern you can take anywhere with you, but oil is more scarce. Tinderboxes, there's more of them in the game than oil, but when you light a candle, I can't even finish the sentence. When you light a candle, you're probably not going to be returning to that room, but you needed it well lit so you could explore and traverse areas. Paired with the sanity mechanic, it's really cool. The lantern makes for this other sort of micromanaging part of the gameplay, because this is a lot of game. There's a lot of things going on here. I know there are some horror games out there that play themselves. Amnesia is not one of them. You're going to be opening drawers physically. You're going to be opening cupboards. You're going to be hiding. You're going to be stealthing around enemies, using a lantern, putting it away very quickly if you see a monster, making a quick decision whether or not to hide in this room, go forward, go under this table, tossing around boxes looking for tinder, looking for oil, opening chests, creating concoctions. You have an inventory, a very vast inventory. You have to find items and craft. It's a lot of game, and I like that. it really shines. This studio really knew what they wanted to make when they made this game. It's so fully realized. I mean, some of the areas can appear a little bit samey. There aren't exactly a lot of environments. As far as environments go, I would say there is the castle area. Then there is the prison, which I would consider to be area 2. And you explore these catacombs. There's cells all over the place. There's secret tunnels. It's just very cool, and there's a high influx of enemies here. Then there was the sewers and the final area of the game, which was this very architecturally complicated looking area, and it was definitely my favorite part, because it's when the level design started looking the most interesting, because a lot of it looked very, very samey. But I will say that those last couple of areas in the game were very, very well made, very fun, just looking fun to explore. Like, the last half of the game really kicks it up a notch in the fun factor, for me at least. Monsters, where do I begin? The monsters are cool. I'm sure most of you have seen the Amnesia monster, whether it be from a PewDiePie thumbnail or some other source. And, you know, it's scary. It's pretty scary. I said this, I previously mentioned that there is no combat in the game. However, there is plenty of stealth, and the monsters are completely invincible. I mean, from time to time, you might be able to cheese them a little bit, like in this instance I have on screen. The first monster you actually encounter is about an hour into the game, so there's this really good sense of build-up. You know, you hear noises, maybe you saw something, maybe you heard some stomping, and you can see dust coming off of the ceiling, and you're thinking, I'm not alone. But when you actually get to that moment where you're confronted face to face with the monster, it's jarring and it's scary, and there's not much you can do but sit there and let your sanity go down, because you can't turn on your lantern because it's looking right at you. And this moment was spectacular. This moment was paramount. It was amazing. And as the game goes on, you'll encounter more of these creatures, and each one of these encounters is scripted. So on a first playthrough, they're effective. On a second playthrough, this game, you don't need to play through it twice. Its initial run is going to be your best one, because you don't know what to do. The one thing I will say I don't like about the monsters in general is in a few certain circumstances, I was killed by the creature, and then when I respawned, they despawned the creature completely. They didn't move it to another area, they didn't spawn it in later, but they outright removed it entirely. And I found that strange. I was expecting to have another go, to get another try, but that didn't end up happening. In a few certain circumstances where the monster itself was a puzzle, it would respawn. But if it was just some encounter of little consequence other than being there to scare you, if the monster killed you when you came back to the game, it'd be gone. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that one bit. I mean, sure, maybe you could argue that it would be tedious and not scary on its second attempt anyways, if you just had to try to get through the room again without getting seen, but I still would have liked another go in some of these circumstances, because I was close to getting through. I just failed towards the end, and I'm thinking, alright, I'll get it this time, but I don't have that chance to redeem myself. Here's a specific example. This creature is another enemy type in Amnesia. This is one that reacts to sound. He has a metal hand, and he's really scary. So, the puzzle here was, how am I gonna get through that hallway without him seeing me or hearing me? So, the idea I come up with is to take this nearby rock and toss it across the room to have him go investigate so I can sneak past. And the first time I attempt this, some weirdness happens. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but my second attempt, he did respawn, and I was very happy because I was thinking, okay, I actually have another opportunity to get this right. And I tossed the rock again, I sneak past him, and I think I'm in the clear. You hear a growl, and this indicates that the monster has seen you. I'm fairly certain this is unavoidable in this one instance. He's supposed to see you, like, after you sneak past him. And so a chase begins. I'm running through doors, and all I have to do is get through this door and go up a ladder. But I thought he was further away, and I instinctively thought this door was one that opened automatically. I didn't realize it was one I had to pull to open it. So I was just standing there like a dumbass, and the enemy killed me. So I thought, oh man, I was so close. I just had to get through this door. It was all I had to do. You know, just give me one more chance. But then I spawn in, and the monster's gone, and I'm disappointed because I was so close. I could have gotten it. I was close to getting it. That's the only thing I don't like about Amnesia so far in my run through, was that a lot of enemies would despawn if they got you. And I don't know, kind of took out the fear because I could potentially just run into a room, you know, balls out, screaming my head off, let the enemy see me, let it kill me, respawn, and then just go about my business solving puzzles without fear, because it doesn't matter. But that's just me. It's a small gripe. If you're good at the game, I'm sure you probably will never experience what I'm experiencing, because I apparently was too stupid to get past some of these encounters, and the game assumed I was too stupid to make up for my mistakes. But yeah, that's that. Another creature in the game is this water monster. I initially thought it was some invisible man, which is why I was extra scared, because I kind of imagined in my head that there was just some man standing there waiting for me to step in the water. He says, "Oh, just step in. If you step in, I'll give you such a pinch." But no, it's actually this weird fish monster, and you can't really see it because it's invisible in game, but apparently it's some kind of a piranha. Go figure. This is the scariest enemy in the game. You only encounter it once, potentially a second time, although I don't know if I avoided it or if it was just meant to bring up some horrible memories. But I'll go into that in just a moment. First, let's talk about the initial encounter. You encounter this creature in a room completely covered in water. Not just a room, an entire hallway system and, you know, archive of rooms flooded with water, and you just see it splashing towards you, and you gotta get out of there. You hop onto a box, and it's not getting you anymore. It's not scratching you. It's just there, and it's now become a fucking platformer. I love it. What the hell? This is so cool. Now I need to make my way from platform to platform. In some instances, creating my own platforms, getting to rooms, running the cover, while this creature is following me everywhere I go. It gets so bad to the point where I need to actually step in the water to perform a certain task, but this monster is on you relentlessly, and it hurts. So it comes down to sacrificing body parts. Not your own, but body parts of some other fellow who happened to get mixed up in all this nonsense. So you pick up an arm, you pick up a leg, you toss it in the water, and you wait for that monster to become occupied so you can make a mad dash. So you can open this door, and it's stressful because when you hear that splashing, you better get on a box or prepare to take some damage because it hits, and it hits hard. I feel like I'm describing some kind of a wrestler.
When he steps into the ring, you better get on some boxes because he's gonna hit, and he's gonna hit hard. Sunday, you'll pay for the whole seat, but you only need the edge. You pay for the whole box, but you only need the edge.
I'm taking this too far. The only other time I thought I was going to encounter this enemy was when I entered another room filled with water, and this sent chills down my spine. I was thinking to myself, God damn it, I cannot believe I'm in another damn water room. So I'm cautiously, very carefully making my way around, and you know, I'm solving puzzles, and then I'll hear a splish, and I look, and I thought I heard something, but maybe it was nothing. I mean, I'm not gonna test it, but it was a splish, it was a sploosh, it was a splash. And there was this, I have this on camera. I was solving this puzzle, and I somehow fucked up and fell in the water, and I freaked out. I was like, oh, god damn it. Like that, it conditioned me to be afraid of water. How awesome is that? And, you know, the monster wasn't actually there. I was scaring myself. But every single time I had to go through the water, I was bracing for the worst. I was expecting the worst. That walk from the back end of this room all the way to the entrance where I came in was nerve-wracking. I was expecting, this is it. I'm gonna have to run. I'm gonna die. This is terrible. And then by the time I got back on land, I thought, oh, nothing happened. Why was I so scared? And this is exactly why a second playthrough of this game probably is not going to be as magic as the first time through. Because I know if I ever return to that room, I'd just, you know, I'd run through, no real experience. I'd turn some dials and I'd leave. But without the knowledge, I was freaked out because the game was lying to me. As far as monsters go, those are the only ones in the game. The initial creature, the slightly upgraded version of the creature that has a metal hand, and the water monster. And that's it. Just 3 monsters. I don't mind that there weren't more, because each monster was very specifically placed, which I like as opposed to random dispersal of the enemy, because that would just feel crappy. I don't know. There's something about procedurally generated stuff that I don't like. It just feels very cheap and unintuitive. So I really liked all of these very carefully scripted events with the monsters. It was another amazing performance from Amnesia. So far it's getting a lot of really good points. So far the story was excellent, not perfect, but it was very fun, and I liked the twist. The mechanics of the game are pretty sound. I love the physics. I love the lantern. I like the tinder. I love the sanity. That's really cool. And I love the kind of balancing act that you have to do as a player between light and vision or dark and losing sanity. And on top of that, the monsters are pretty cool. I loved all of their mechanics. The first one, you know, is just scary in general. The intro was very well done. I liked the build-up. The second enemy, which was the water creature, was super scary and even scared me when it wasn't even there. And the third enemy I thought it was alright. I liked its sound-based stuff. As you go through the game, you kind of become less scared, but, you know, que sera, sera. A few more thoughts I have on the game is, there's not that many jump scares. A lot of the jump scares aren't so much in your face, like in other games that are lesser to this one. The jump scares are more things that you see in the distance, and you think, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, right? I would say there is one real jump scare in the game. It scared the piss out of me. I guess I can show it. I don't like putting jump scares in my videos, but I will show it. I'll put up a timer on screen so you know exactly when it's going to happen, and I'll describe it to you. What it is I walked into this room, there was a loud, shrill scream, and then a bunch of flames popped up. And that was the only real jump scare in the game. Like I said, other than that, maybe some weird things where you walk in a room and you hear someone talking, and then you think, what the fuck was that? Did I say that? What was that? What's happening? I don't know, there's something scary about that. I've been alone this whole game, and then I walk into a room and someone says, Daniel, is that you? And I say, Nani? I look around and no one's there. It's scary. And then maybe a couple of times where I solve a puzzle and suddenly a monster has been spawned outside of the door and I need to go through that door and it's busting it down, and I have this funny clip where this exact scenario played out and I kind of freaked out and just tried to run past him, and I was kind of glitching in the wall with him and I couldn't. There's a few moments like that, but they're few and far in between. Not that I hate glitches, I think they're funny. They made the experience even more special for me, I will admit.
He'll never get through that door, Scoob! Wouldn't you know he'd come through the wall?
You have angered the ghost of Ventul. Now you shall pay.
We're running, Scoob, but like we're not going anywhere.
The final half of this game has you on this fetch quest for pieces of an orb. And it's not that I hate fetch quests. I don't even really hate them. I didn't have a problem finding the Triforce pieces in Wind Waker. I didn't have a problem finding the artifacts in Metroid Prime. And I don't have a problem with this. What I do have a problem with is just how weird these locations are. I mean, I got really lucky on this. I was playing with my friend Jason, who has been on the show. Hello, Jason. If you were watching this video, thank you for your fucking help. He was sitting in watching me while I did the orb quest. Up until that point, I had been playing by myself, and he's played the game before, so he knew. And I was exploring every inch of this final, we could just call final few areas. It's kind of 3 big areas that are all connected to this central hub. And I was looking for the pieces, and I found, you know, I would find a few, and then I'd be in a room, I'd look around, I'd say, all right, I don't know what the point of this room is, and I'd leave, and then Jason would say, George, dude, go back. And I'd say, okay, and I walk back in, and he says, move those boxes over. I'll move them over, and sure enough, there's a piece of the orb I need. I am really glad I did not have to come back here, because I have to stealth my way around enemies and really scary shit to get to this room, and I was about to walk out before even grabbing the item I came for. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't even know it was gonna be in this room. I just was very fucking happy that Jason was there with me. And there were a couple of instances like that. I found a few of the obvious ones, but there were a few where Jason had to warn me, like, whoa, check this room a little bit more before you leave. And I'd say, okay, there it is. And there was actually a point where I was missing one, and we were racking our brains thinking, all right, we've been to so many areas. George, there had to have been one that you left without getting a piece. And I thought, oh my god, it's in the cow room. How could I have been so stupid? I entered this room, and I did something. I put something inside of this iron cow and I lit a fire or whatever, but I didn't grab the piece. It was around the pillar. It was around the pillar. How was I supposed to say? I cannot believe I missed that. I mean, I can believe it. I just can't believe it was actually in there. So I had to actually weave my way through the enemies again, get back to this room, actually grab the piece, and then when I had all of the pieces, I could construct the orb, allowing me into the final encounter with Alexander. And man, I could definitely imagine a time before there were walkthroughs for this game where people were looking for those pieces and just about to drop the game. The last thing I'll touch on for gameplay is puzzles. There are plenty of puzzles in the game, usually involving a physical item that you have to carry from one room to another, or tossing something up, or tossing something at something to break it. And then your classic turning valves, and it's okay. As soon as I will say the first puzzle, if you've never played the game before, is a little confusing, because I would say I'm not used to playing games where I have to physically pick something up and like drop it somewhere, you know, or physically insert it. I'm more used to the style of Resident Evil or Silent Hill, where I pick up something and it's in my inventory, and I use said item to progress. And there are things like that in Amnesia, where you combine things in your inventory and use items on other items in the game. But then there are things like this, where I need to carry this pipe and place it here, or where I have to turn these dials, and I'm still not even exactly sure what this puzzle was. But I think what I did was I had to make all of these weights mirror the weights in the opposite room. And then there was this puzzle where I had to kind of make my way back up to this higher floor, even though the stairs broke. So I had to grab some boxes and make myself a platform to get higher up. So that's kind of how the game works. I will say there was only one time where I was absolutely stumped. No idea. I could not figure out what to do. I had never been so stuck. I checked everywhere except for the right place. That is how long I spent. I have a recording that's, no lie, 45 minutes of me wandering, just trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do in this room? it came to the point where I actually had to look it up. It was a little shameful, but I had to get on GameFAQs and I had to actually look through the walkthrough and get up to where I was in the game. Now, where I was, I couldn't progress any further. There was nowhere for me to go, so I was just trying to figure out how to get through these 2 doors. The solution was I needed to climb up on this table, look up, there's a trapdoor on the ceiling, open up the trapdoor, grab a box nearby, put the box on the table, climb back up on the table, then onto the box, look up inside of the trapdoor, push a gear, and then the doors are working again. What the fuck was that? That was the weirdest puzzle in the entire game. I figured out everything up to that point without a walkthrough. But that one instance was so bizarre. I even tried jumping on this table at one point. I know I did. I have clips of me seeing, oh, can I get up on this table? But I guess I just didn't jump at the right spot and I didn't get on top of it, which makes me even more mad. But that was the only part where I was completely stumped. Other than that, the puzzles are fairly simple. The hardest puzzle in the game is probably the hardest traditional puzzle, excluding that really weird jump on top of a box and look through a trap door. The hardest actual puzzle was the valve puzzle, where you're trying to fix a machine by putting coal into the furnace and then grabbing gears from several separate rooms and inserting it into the machine, then grabbing tubes to insert into these weird holes. Then you gotta go turn some dials so that, or not turn dials, but rather pull levers. I figured it out, but I would say that was definitely the most convoluted of the puzzles. There were times where I didn't even realize how I got the solution, but I got them nonetheless. They're not too complicated. But puzzles, I'll say they're okay. They're not amazing, not exactly the highlight of the game, but they're okay. The best puzzles were the physics-based ones, where you'd have to drag something over and then you get on top of it to get somewhere else, or to again, just throw rocks at ladders. Where's my notes? Just in case I forgot anything, I must look at my notes. How could I forget? I'll give you my final closing thoughts. One was, this game taught me to have really good instincts. I had to really think outside the box in some situations. I often found myself going exactly in the right direction, although there were many choices to be made. One of the better moments was after your initial horrible encounters with spooky, scary things and getting through the most dire of circumstances, you'll reach this safe room, and this safe room is very interesting. You get in, there's nice music playing, you know, you look at your sanity, you're crystal clear. This room is safe. There's a creepy baby fountain, but it's safe. And from here on out, for the next hour or so, you're going to be traveling to different rooms that all lead back to this safe area. And as you complete tasks, the safe area becomes less safe. So the first time you're in, it's the best place in the world. You know, you solve some puzzles, you come back, and then you're just relieved to be back in the safe room. But as you're progressing, in one instance, I come back, and some of the red goo that's been strung about the more evil parts of this world is overtaking the safe room, and it's becoming a little more twisted in here. It's less charming than before. There's no happy music playing. Your sanity doesn't come back when you enter the room anymore, and it's no longer fun. And then you solve more puzzles, and then you go back to the safe room, and it's become even worse. It's almost completely overrun by these jello monsters on the ground, and just everything's bad. The fountain is now oozing blood instead of water. Just everything went wrong, and now you need to finally go down the elevator to get to the prison and just escape this place that used to be safe. The game is showing you that evil is coming, and it's coming faster than you expected. There is no safe place. And when you get into the elevator, you crash into the prison, where the most encounters in the game happen. And it's, oh my god, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of gameplay. A huge highlight for me. So overall, Amnesia the Dark Descent was a great game, and it deserves quite frankly, all the praise it gets. I've never played this before. I have no bias. All I am is a man who played a great game and feels the need to tell everyone just how great it was and why I thought it was so great. And its legacy is proof that it didn't just impact me. So for those of you who haven't played this game, or who watched this video just curious about the story and about why this game is even any good, I implore you, please, play the game. It's free on PSN until the end of the day, and the sequel is exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next video, and I hope all of you had a lot of fun listening with me and joining me on this journey. I cannot thank you enough. Tom, thank you so much for having me on the channel.
No problem, George. It's all in a good day's work. And everyone on SnicketySlice, be sure to subscribe to my good buddy George. He's a great guy and he's just a fucking cat's pajamas. So go on then.
But in all seriousness, thank you everybody who watched and everyone who's a viewer of SnicketySlice or Tom or whatever you want to call him. I super appreciate him having me on the channel. And if you are so interested, we are doing the sequel to this video about a machine for pigs next week on GPad. I'm George Damon, I am the host of GPad, and we do Let's Plays, reviews, parodies, speed draws, and so much more. So if you like, be sure to hop on over to my channel and take a look. I'm sure out of all the things on there, you'll find something that interests you. But yeah, I'll just sit here for a while until you click on something. Go on.